My golden sister claimed I stole from our parents to ruin me. I exposed her scam in front of everyone. My name's Eric, I'm 22, and if you think you know family drama, you haven't seen anything yet. My sister Amanda, 25, has always been the golden girl of the family. Flawless grades, perfect hair, and that smile everyone loves. My parents? They were her personal cheerleaders. Meanwhile, my achievements? Barely noticed. Then, everything changed at this fancy family dinner. My parents' attempt at a grand social event. It was just an excuse to flaunt their golden girl. I knew it wasn't going to be a normal dinner when Amanda arrived with that fake smile. The table was set with our pretentious silverware, my parents glowing with pride because Amanda wore some designer dress they probably paid for. I'm stuck listening to another round of Amanda did this, Amanda did that. Suddenly, during Dad's speech about family values, Amanda stands up dramatically. The room goes silent. She pulls out a wad of my dad's old bills, his favorite. Holding it up like evidence, she claims she found it in my backpack. My own sister accuses me of stealing, right there. The shock in the room is intense. All eyes are on me, and I can barely breathe. Mom gasps, and Dad's face turns cold. Amanda, with her smug expression, seems to be relishing every second of it. And my parents? They believe her without a doubt. After all, she's the golden girl. Amanda never lies, or so they think. I try to defend myself, but I'm paralyzed. Years of effort burn away in seconds, and Amanda stands there, basking in her victory. Dinner wasn't even over when the chaos began. The second plates were cleared. My parents stormed into my room like they were raiding a crime scene. They tore through my things, yanking open drawers, tossing clothes, and flipping my desk. They even rifled through my bookshelf as if I was hiding gold bars. I half expected them to start dusting for fingerprints. "Where's the rest of the stolen money, Eric?" Mom's voice was shrill, eyes wide like I was a stranger. Dad stood there, arms crossed, nodding at every accusation Amanda had made. It was like living in a twisted cop show, but my parents were playing judge and jury. I stuttered out a defense, but they were convinced of my guilt. Every "it wasn't me" was met with eye rolls, treating me like a caught delinquent. My face burned with frustration, and I knew who was behind it. Amanda. Upstairs in her perfect room, she was probably sipping herbal tea while I got labeled the black sheep. "You need to admit what you did," Dad said coldly. "We're giving you a chance to come clean." Because, of course, trashing my room was the perfect way to encourage honesty. It was like I wasn't their son anymore. They had that cold, judgmental look that made my stomach twist. Amanda always hated when I got any attention, and she'd snatch the spotlight every time, be it a school award or a work promotion. Subtle jabs and manipulations, and my family would be back to singing her praises. But accusing me of theft? That was next level. "Eric, we know you've been struggling," Mom said with fake concern that only fueled my anger. They acted like they wanted to help, but I knew they'd hand me over to the cops in a heartbeat. My only problem was upstairs, probably texting friends about her latest triumph. They found nothing, of course, because I hadn't taken a thing. But it didn't matter. To them, I was guilty, thanks to Amanda's perfectly planted seeds of doubt. It was humiliating and infuriating. I knew I had to clear my name, but even if I did, the damage was done. I'd still be the problem, and Amanda would remain their flawless golden girl. But this time, I wasn't letting her win. Oh, they weren't letting up. My parents, those paragons of family honor, kept pushing me to confess. "Just admit it, Eric," they repeated endlessly. "Even if you didn't mean it, tell the truth for the sake of the family's reputation." Seriously? They acted like I'd burned the family crest. Apparently, being wrongly accused by Amanda was preferable to defending myself. Then they had the nerve to suggest that if I gave the money back, they'd forgive me. "Eric, if you return it now, we can move past this," Mom said, her fake concern making my skin crawl. Dad just nodded like some self-righteous patriarch. I wanted to scream. I hadn't taken anything. The whole thing was absurd. Meanwhile, I could imagine Amanda's smug face, knowing she'd manipulated them perfectly. That's when I snapped. No more victim routine. I wasn't going to grovel. If Amanda wanted to play dirty, I'd outsmart her. Time to find out what she was hiding. I started watching her. Yeah, I know, it sounds stalkerish, but desperate times, right? Amanda got cocky after her stunt, thinking she was untouchable. I tracked her movements. Yoga at 8 a.m., lunch with her friends at the overpriced cafe, back home to play the perfect daughter. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew she'd slip up. And she did. One afternoon, while shopping, she started acting strange, glancing around nervously. I watched from behind a flimsy bush, feeling like a fool. But then I saw her duck into an alley. My heart pounded. Amanda pulled out that same stack of wrinkled bills she'd used to frame me and stuffed it into a shabby envelope. My eyes widened. What was she doing? Was she hiding it or covering her tracks? Whatever it wasn't innocent. I still didn't have all the answers, but Amanda clearly had secrets, and I was going to expose them, one by one. It was just a matter of time before Miss Perfect slipped, and when she did, I'd be ready. After all, the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. I knew I had to catch Amanda in the act, and that meant getting sneaky, really sneaky. I pulled off what I called the double fake-out. One afternoon, I loudly announced I was heading out, making a big show with my keys and slamming the door. But I didn't leave. I parked my car down the block, waited half an hour, and snuck back in like a bargain bin spy. Amanda's room was at the end of the hall. Every step felt like walking on eggshells as my heart pounded. This was my shot, my chance to prove my perfect sister was a fraud. I hid behind her dresser, wedged next to some gaudy vintage lampshades she adored. The room reeked of her overpriced perfume, and I barely dared to breathe as I heard her footsteps. Amanda strutted in, humming like she owned the world. She tossed her bag, checked herself in the mirror, and went straight for Dad's coat. It was always there when he left it after work. Without a second's hesitation, she fished out the emergency cash he kept hidden. Amanda's eyes gleamed as she pocketed the money. No guilt, no hesitation. I could hardly contain myself, but I stayed quiet. My phone was out, recording every moment, every sly grin, every move. It felt like shooting the worst home video ever, starring our family's golden girl in her true role, the big thief. Then came the final touch. She pulled out a cheap notebook and jotted something down. I zoomed in with my phone, just catching the title, Eric's Money. The irony was delicious. She was so confident she didn't think twice about incriminating herself. Satisfaction surged through me. This was the proof I needed. Proof she'd framed me. She finished, stashed the notebook back, and left like nothing happened. I waited a few minutes, then snuck out the way I'd come, my heart still racing. The video was perfect. Every damning second was captured, ready to shatter her image. Amanda's reign as the golden girl was coming to an end, and for the first time in weeks, I felt in control. Now it was time to play my hand, and show everyone who Amanda really was. The day had finally come. My parents, in their infinite wisdom, decided the best way to handle the scandal was another fancy family dinner, because obviously, roast chicken and crystal glasses are perfect for clearing up theft accusations. But I was ready. They'd set the stage, and I was about to bring it all crashing down. Amanda arrived in her Sunday best, glowing with smug confidence. She worked the room effortlessly, dropping hints about trust and family values at every turn. She had everyone eating out of her hand, playing the part like a seasoned actress. Dinner started off tense, with my parents throwing me suspicious glances, trying to keep things polite. Amanda, meanwhile, couldn't resist those passive-aggressive comments about honesty. It was all I could do not to roll my eyes. Then came the big moment. Dad cleared his throat like he was delivering a funeral speech. "We need to address the situation," he said, and all eyes turned to me. Amanda's grin widened, her excitement barely contained. She launched into a speech full of fake tears, talking about how heartbroken she was and how she just wanted to protect the family. It was nauseating, but I was ready. The second she paused, I held up my phone. "I think I have something to show everyone," I said. Amanda's smile froze, panic flashing in her eyes. I walked to the TV, plugged in my phone, and played the video. The room fell silent as Amanda's greatest hits played. There she was, rummaging through Dad's coat, pocketing the money with that smug expression. Gasps filled the room, but I didn't take my eyes off her. She went pale, her confidence evaporating. "Explain that," I said, leaning back with a grin. "Looks like I'm not the one with sticky fingers after all." Amanda stammered. "This is a setup. He faked it." "Oh, sure," I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm a video editing wizard now, huh?" My parents were stunned, staring at Amanda like they'd never seen her before. Their betrayal was almost satisfying. Seeing Amanda's face crumble under the weight of her own lies. Absolutely priceless. I sat back, arms crossed, feeling the shift in the room. Amanda had played her hand, but I'd just flipped the whole game, revealing her true self to everyone. The second the video ended, the room felt frozen in time. My parents, who had always sworn Amanda was an angel, just sat there staring blankly at the TV. Dad's fork hovered in midair, while Mom's eyes were wide, like she'd just heard the most shocking news. It was as if someone had revealed that Amanda was secretly the head of a criminal empire. Honestly, they weren't far off. Meanwhile, Amanda was falling apart. Her hands shook, and her fake confidence melted away. That's not what it looks like," she squeaked, her voice hitting a glass-shattering pitch. "I was just... Dad, I was only trying to... To what, Amanda?" I asked, grinning with satisfaction. "Help yourself to the family's emergency cash? Or was this just part of your Golden Girl act?" For once, Amanda had no comeback. Dad snapped out of his shock and looked at her like she was a stranger. "Amanda, is this true?" he asked, his voice almost desperate. But Amanda, now pale and panicked, had no answer. The evidence was there, replaying in everyone's minds. She tried to laugh it off, but it came out as a weak squeak. "Eric must have, I don't know, faked it somehow. This isn't real." "Oh, sure," I said, sarcasm dripping. "I'm suddenly a video editing pro, right?" Mom's eyes went between Amanda and the TV, and the truth hit her hard. Tears welled up as the Golden Girl's facade shattered. All those years of being treated as second best, while Amanda got away with everything, it was all falling apart. Amanda's excuses crumbled into desperate apologies. I just needed a little cash. It wasn't much and I was going to pay it back. You have to believe me." But my parents weren't buying it. Dad's face hardened. "You told us Eric was the thief," he said slowly. "You lied." "I didn't lie," Amanda's voice cracked. "I made a mistake, a tiny one." "A tiny mistake?" I scoffed. "You framed me, Amanda. You nearly ruined me, and you call that tiny?" The weight of the truth hit my parents like a tidal wave. They slumped back in their chairs, deflated. Mom was crying freely, and Dad looked like he had the world's worst headache. Amanda sat there, realizing her game was over. The Golden Girl's crown had shattered beyond repair. And me? I sat back, letting the reality sink in. Amanda had played them, and they'd fallen for it. Until now. The truth was out, and there was no going back. For once, I held all the cards. The second the truth hit, it was like a bomb went off. Dad's face turned from white to fire engine red, and I seriously thought he might pop a blood vessel. He slammed his fist down, making the silverware jump, and stood with a roar that shook the chandelier. "Amanda, what were you thinking?" he yelled, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Amanda's cool act evaporated in seconds. Her face twisted in panic as she looked for a way out, but there was none. Mom was frozen, silent tears streaming down as she stared at Amanda like a stranger. The perfect family picture was shattered, but Amanda wasn't giving up. She pointed at me, her voice cracking with fury. He faked it," she shrieked. "Eric edited the video." Oh, right. The classic setup excuse. I rolled my eyes. "Sure, Amanda. I'm secretly a Hollywood-level editor, right?" Dad wasn't buying it. His rage only intensified. "That's enough," he snapped, cutting off her excuses. "I saw the video. Don't you dare lie." Amanda's confidence crumbled. She was cornered, and she knew it. Her hands shook as she clung to the last scraps of her facade. I leaned back, arms crossed, savoring the moment. This was victory. In a last desperate attempt, she cried, "You've always been jealous, Eric. You've always wanted to ruin me." I laughed, a short, bitter laugh. "You ruined yourself," I said coldly. "You lost, and it's your own fault." That was the final blow. She sank back, defeated, her world crumbling around her. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Why, Amanda?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. She didn't answer, just stared down, shattered. Mom's sobs filled the room, and I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered how they treated me like a criminal, and any sympathy vanished. The truth was out, and my parents finally saw Amanda for what she was, a fraud. For a brief moment, I felt a twinge of pity. But then I remembered her smile when she framed me. No, she deserved this. She'd built her pedestal on lies, and now it had crashed down. I'd won, but it wasn't a sweet victory. It was bitter and cold, tinged with betrayal that wouldn't fade. But the truth was out, and that was enough. That dinner changed everything. My parents, those same parents who had looked at me like I was the family's greatest disappointment, actually apologized. Yeah, they pulled the whole, "We're so sorry, we should have believed you" routine. And while they said all the right things, promising to make it up to me, the damage was already done. I mean, it's hard to go back to happy family mode when you've spent weeks being treated like a suspect in your own home. Trust, as it turns out, doesn't come with an easy reset button. Amanda? Oh, she got what was coming to her all right. My parents, in a rare moment of wisdom, decided that if she was so good at taking the family's money, she might as well work to earn it back. So they gave her a job in the family's little corner store, the very same store she'd always bragged she was too good for. But there she was, behind the counter, wearing that ugly beige apron and smiling at customers like a caged animal. It was kind of poetic, really. The golden girl, reduced to stocking shelves and mopping floors until she paid off every last cent she'd stolen. They stuck her in the lowest position possible, too. No cushy desk job, no comfy chair. Nope. Amanda was the cashier, the floor sweeper, and the general errand girl all rolled into one. The look on her face when she realized she'd be dealing with grumpy customers and sticky floors instead of fancy dinners and fake smiles? Oh, it was priceless. For once, she was living the reality she'd been so desperate to avoid. And every time I imagined her struggling to fake that customer service smile, I couldn't help but grin. As for me, I'd had enough of the family drama to last a lifetime. I packed my bags, said my goodbyes, and got the heck out of that suffocating little town. I found a place in the city, far enough away that I didn't have to hear the endless whispering about what happened to Amanda. It was a fresh start, a clean slate, and I was ready to leave the past behind. But you know what they say. Just because you've moved on doesn't mean you forget. Every now and then, my parents would send me letters. Long, handwritten apologies filled with pleas for forgiveness, updates on how Amanda was making progress, and the occasional awkward invitation to come back for a family dinner. I never answered them, just tucked them away in a drawer I rarely opened. It's not that I hated them or wanted some kind of revenge. I just couldn't bring myself to go back to a place where my word meant nothing. And every time I'd read those letters, I'd get this flash of Amanda's face from that dinner. The exact moment her world crashed down around her. The panic in her eyes when she realized she'd been caught. The way her voice shook as she tried and failed to spin another web of lies. It was a memory that stuck with me, no matter how far I ran. It wasn't about gloating or rubbing her failure in her face. It was about knowing that, for once, the truth had actually won out. I had my own life now, away from the constant comparisons, the favoritism, the endless expectations. I found a decent job, made some new friends, and carved out a space for myself that had nothing to do with the family name. But every time I passed by a corner store or saw some tired cashier ringing up items with a forced smile, I couldn't help but wonder if Amanda was still there, still paying her dues. Because deep down, I knew one thing. The golden girl had finally learned what it meant to lose, and I was the one who'd made sure she'd never forget it. And maybe, just maybe, That was enough.